it well. Played it very, very, very well indeed.
No more slices for you.
Oh, look at that for judgment.
You'll learn.
Hello, welcome to Sliced. If you're watching on YouTube, the cat's rather out of the bag here, but we have got a guest on today, Paul McGinley, who we're delighted to have on. Paul, just before Sam and I do some admin and round up our usual stuff, thanks for coming on. What did you think of Min Woo on Sunday? Did you manage to watch it?
I saw the last few holes yesterday. I watched a little bit on Saturday. Not surprising. Shows you the value of a top caddy. They over-egged it a bit, I think, on the telecast, but nonetheless, I said it on at the TPC. A big move in the right direction for Minwoo getting a caddy of the quality of Bo. I had a chat with Bo for about an hour. We had a drink in at TPC, so I knew he was on the right path. I knew he was getting through to Minwoo, and it was a matter of time before they kind of connected and won. This guy is so talented, as you know. I mean, so talented. He's just a little bit erratic, but you know, Bo will clip a few of his wings, and you know, he can be as good as he wants to be. This guy, that's how talented he is.
I must admit, I was slightly concerned when he was about to play a shot off his knees yesterday. So thanks to Bo Martin for talking him out of that. Sam, I've jumped the gun a little bit, but we've got some tidying up to do first.
Yeah, well, just before we go into other stuff, we should wrap up our Asian swing leaderboard where we're at the moment. So after the Indian Open, the top three currently are Gary Mackay, Ewan Sillars, and Paul Brannigan. So currently, Gary Mackay is in the number one spot for the tickets to one of the Rolex Series events. And then with our overall leaderboard, Lewis Blaine is back in front, which you'll be glad to know. But yeah, so that's our fantasy stuff. But yeah, on to last week's events quickly. I mean, the Houston Open, and we've just obviously mentioned, Ben. Obviously, you had a nice winner with Minwoo. I think we both saw it coming. We talked about it, didn't we, a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about players who some people say are overrated, and I think we both agreed we don't think he is. We didn't think he was at the time, because he's someone who has all the tools, and it was just a matter of time before he broke through. And it was, yeah, I was happy to see it.
Yeah, I mean, same. He put us through it a bit with that drive on 16, you know, but to then par the last two, I thought he showed great composure. And we just talked about Bo Martin, Paul. One of the things I mentioned to Sam, it feels like obviously we're in that generation of speed, right, where everyone is coming out of college trying to hit it as far as they can, and Minwoo obviously has some sort of secret sauce because there's not much of him, and it you know, he's getting 190, 195 miles per hour ball speed. How much of an advantage do you think the fact that seems a natural on and around the greens could be when we're talking about how players separate themselves? Like if everyone's hitting it 330, 350, then to be able to do what he can do around the greens feels to me like it could be a difference maker.
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, you know, golf's about scoring. It's about shooting a number, and if you can't chip and putt, you're never going to shoot a number, no matter how far you hit it. And that's what's so interesting about the game, the evolution. Certainly, when I came on tour in the early '90s, you know, you had the big hitters, but they always had a huge weakness in their short game. You know, they could hit it a million miles, but you know, they had chipping yips, or they couldn't putt very well, and if they were too tall, they were never perceived to be good putters. Oh, he's too tall. Andy Bean, he's too tall. He can't putt. He can't bend over that much and still have the touch with the short game. And you know, his muscles are all different for big hitting than they are for chipping and putting. But that's all kind of gone out the window now. Where you know, it's you know, there's so many guys that are full packages now, and he's one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he. I like you, Ben. I think I was slightly worried on 16 when he hit it in the water, and it did feel like that Scheffler could sort of tie level by birding one of the last two, and or even, you know, Woodland sort of made a relatively late mistake, didn't he? Which and obviously birdied the last, but again, it could have gone wrong, couldn't it? But
I walked in. I walked in just as he was hitting his second, just after he hit his second shot in 16. So did he hit driver again in 16? So the first one went straight in the water, and then he stood up and he hit the second one, and it went into the semi rough. I mean, that was a hell of a shot if that's what he did. You know, with the first one already gone straight in the water, the pressure is on now. That fairway looked really, really small. I'm sure for him to stand up and smash it down, and then hit his next one on the green and two putt and get away with minimizing mistake. You know, there's a lot in that too.
Yeah, I
yeah,
thought four with the second ball was seriously impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was a bit nervous when the shot tracker had it going right again, to be honest with you. But yeah, four with that second ball was impressive. And then actually, like his approach shot to 17, I think he had a 7-iron from 180 something.
Yeah, I saw that.
And he sort of hit a lovely draw. And that's the other thing with him. He's obviously comfortable hitting it both ways, Paul.
Yeah, he moves it both ways. He's an excellent putter, and he's always been an excellent putter. You'd nearly argue it's the best part of his game is his putting. His big hitting is great, but he's also wild with the big hitting. I think you saw that in his accuracy last week. But he's got the flair, you know. And I was disappointed last year in I was doing the President's Cup at NBC, and I was really disappointed how little he was played and how he was kind of treated as kind of a guy that really shouldn't be on the team, and we kind of had to pick him because we didn't have a lot of options. And I thought there was an opportunity with the right management of that guy. He could have been your star performer because he's a natural showman, and he's a guy that could have really excelled in that team environment if it was brought out of him. But I felt that, you know, in President's Cups he's been minimized somewhat, and he's got the star quality. And you know, I don't know him well enough to know what you need to do to bring it out in him. But I was disappointed he didn't play a bigger role in that because he likes the stage.
yeah,
Not everybody does.
he is a showman. It's great to see because there's maybe a slight lack of characters you could possibly say on tour at the moment. He's definitely one that stands out as one, and very entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
We'll just mention the Indian Open before we move on, Paul. So Eugenio Chikara obviously won in the end. It was relatively comfortable. I mean, I think there was one main very big break on the 14th hole where he was off the green, chipped. It probably was going. I mean, who knows how far by? It was going at quite a speed. Hit the flag, dropped straight in, and it went from a possible double bogey to a birdie, and it was a game changer. And at that point, it was pretty much a cruise control to the finish. But obviously, a very talented player with a slightly complicated recent history. Any thoughts on him, Paul, and his ability?
Yeah, he's obviously got the talent, and you know, with what's happening in the world of golf, and to see a guy go from one tour and maybe gone to another tour, and play their way onto that tour is going to be an interesting narrative to follow as the season opens up. I think with that win, I'll give him the confidence. He's obviously a really good player. His amateur career showed that, even though he didn't play that well on Live, and it'd be interesting to see. You know, he'll probably get one of those 10 spots now. And you know, from there, you know, how good is he going to be? You know, he had some strong opinions when he was leaving Live, and he certainly put himself in one camp now. So it'll be interesting to see if he can deliver on it. Yeah, so it's going to be fun to watch that whole storyline unfold.
And unlike Laurie, he won't be banned when he gets to the PGA Tour because his last live event was a little while ago, so he can crack on with Only Open if he does get one of those cards. We're going to come to all that, obviously, a little later on, Paul. But first of all, I want to talk about the Ryder Cup. You know, it's obviously so much a part of your story. I mean, played 3, won 3, then captained the side at Glen Eagles. Are you able to sum up the impact it's had on your career, your life, I guess? I mean, it feels like when we say Paul McGinley, it's the first thing a lot of people think of.
Yeah, I got a lot to the Ryder Cup to thank for. You know, I had a good career, you know, top 20 in the world, won tournaments, but, you know, Ryder Cup is kind of, as you say, exactly, that's my brand. You know, what I'll be doing, what I'm doing now, would my career have gone on to where it is without Ryder Cup? Probably not. So it's been something I really enjoyed, but match play was always a skill that I felt I had. You know, I felt if the world of professional golf was 99% match play rather than stroke play, I feel I would have had a better career. I was good head to head. I understood moments. I love the cut and thrust of looking your opponent in the eye, playing with him. And in a lot of ways, I enjoy playing against an opponent rather than a golf course. I found it hard to concentrate for 72 holes, 18 holes. Felt I was better at, and my match play record was very good. Not just in Ryder Cups, but Sevi trophies, Royal trophies, even the World Match Play. I got beaten in the final one year. The one time I got to it by Michael Campbell, probably the biggest regret in my career. And yeah, it's always something I enjoyed, and the Ryder Cup's been kind to me. I've learned a huge amount from it. And I have, maybe if it's, I can say I do have a bit of a match play instinct.
Obviously, you still get that head-to-head element as a captain in some respects against your opposite number. But how hard has it been to let go when you pick your pairings? You have such a big role, which we'll come on to in the whole process getting there. But when you send those guys out onto the course, it must be difficult. And as an extension of that, how does the pressure compare? Therefore, because you're being judged now not on the golf shots you hit, but on the decisions you make.
Absolutely, Ben. I mean, at that stage, every captain is different. I mean, and that's the thing. There's no one way of doing it. Many captains have done it different ways and been really successful. And the way I do it doesn't mean that everybody else should do it that way. And it's important that we realize that. So my view was very, very strict, black and white. Once the players got on the golf course, 99.9% of the time, I stood away and watched and I observed. I prepared the next roll of the dice. My job was all done. Either before the game or mostly the night before or mostly the weeks or the days before the match started, when I'm preparing the team, I'm putting together a strategy, I'm communicating with the players, I'm getting them motivated, and I'm creating a platform for the players to go and perform. That's what the captain's job is. It's not the coaching like would be, in a soccer match, like Pep Guardiola standing on the sideline and shouting and roaring and changing instructions, changing the tactics halfway through. You don't do that in the Ryder Cup. It's a different form of leadership, different style. But that doesn't mean that we don't do a huge amount of it. And my experience of it is captains are hugely influential in the outcomes of team events. I've seen it all. I've been lucky. I've transcended the Sevi, the Langer, the Woodsy, the Faldo, the Montgomerys, the Sergios, the Rorys. I've either played with them or captained by all of those people that I mentioned, the Lazabals. So I've learned a huge amount from them, and I can unequivocally say the captains have had a massive influence on certainly how I felt as a player in each of those teams. And they all came at it differently, and I learned a huge amount from it. So I can really relate the correlation between what a captain does and the performance of the team. Now, that's my view. Not everybody's going to agree on that, but I've been there. I've been that soldier, and I've experienced it. And I'll go to my grave believing the captain has a huge effect on whether a team wins or not. Of course, you got to have the players, and of course, the players hit the shots. But in terms of putting it all together and the communication and creating the platform, the captain is absolutely essential. But that's how I see it.
And you're just back to your playing days. A lot of people will either not remember or be maybe too young to know that you were a rookie when you hold the putt to win the Ryder Cup. And obviously, the significance of that, it had been a longer gap, hadn't it? For I think been 3 years because of 9/11 and the gap from
Yeah.
Brookline. We'd lost in the fashion we'd lost. I mean, I can't imagine the sense of purpose you all had that week. And then you're the one. I mean, how many players can say that they've stood over a putt to win the Ryder Cup? Did you feel calm? Were your hands shaking? What was that moment like?
Well, again, that goes back to the point that I've just made. I would not have held that putt without Sam Torrance. I would not have had that Ryder Cup that I had without Sam Torrance. How he captained me. Now, he had an advantage because of 9/11, as you said, and he had 12 months with his players in place. And I lived in Sunningdale. We played in Sunningdale and we played a lot together. And I mean, he lived in my head. And he gave me so much confidence. I didn't have a great season that year. I might have been sixth or seventh in the money list the year that we qualified. And I was looking forward to that Ryder Cup, just coming off having won in Wales. And I'd had a really good season. I'd qualified for the team comfortably. I was raring to go. 9/11 happens. I come back the following year and I've plummeted. I don't know where I was, 30 or 40 in the money list. So I wasn't having a good season. I was missing more cuts than I was making. And I was going into play in this Ryder Cup, this huge event, without a whole lot of form. And the way that I was embraced, the way that I was played by him, the way I was communicated with to, the way I was made to feel like the most important guy in the team, the way he approached me as I walked over the bridge in 18, having hit a pull hook with a 3-iron for my second shot, and kind of embarrassed that I missed the green by 20 yards left. The smile on his face, the disarming of all of the pressure, and the empowering of me as I walked off the bridge on the far side, having had a few words in my ear from Sam. It was like, wow, I can't wait to have a go at this. You know, so I said earlier that, when the players got on the course, I stood away and let them do it. Sam was different. Sam now and again got involved and he got in your ear, and that worked as well. So that's when I say there's no one way of doing it. And I would not have got up and down on that green without the captaincy of Sam Torrance. It was brilliant, and what he did in a bigger scale too, and how he put out the team, how he played Monty, in particular, how he played to Monty's ego, who was fantastic that week. Sergio was still young and innocent and running around the place and excitable, and how he intertwined that in. And then he had, a number of players, me included, off form. Westwood was off form. Philip Price was off form. Parnevik was off form, and limping with a team that was not really firing against a very strong American team. Tiger Woods in his pomp in 2002, and the confidence that we had as a team, and the appetite and the fun and that sense of adventure and excitement. I mean, as I say, he created a platform that was vibrant, exciting, with nothing to lose. And it kind of unburdened and unshackled us, and played golf to a higher standard than what we kind of were playing. So again, goes back to the captain, and I learned so much, and that was one of the reasons why Sam was my first vice captain when I decided on who my vice captains were going to be. Sam Torrance, as I said, always the happiest guy in the room. I wanted that vibe behind the scenes, and there's nobody brings that more to the table than Sam does.
And have you, Paul? I'm intrigued. Have you noticed a sort of change in the Ryder Cup over the years? I mean, it feels like it's gone from being a very big thing to absolutely huge in the last sort of decade or so. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think it. Yeah, I mean, when I played in it, it would have got a lot bigger than it had been 10 years previously. It's one of those things that's escalating. I think the division in the game and the four majors in the Ryder Cup has separated themselves. I think the world has changed as well, and people's perception of sport has changed. They're more engaged now. They're more passionate. They're more shouty. They feel they have ownership over the players. And I think that all kind of buys into it too. And then, of course, it's gone to another level in terms of as the atmosphere builds and the size of it builds. I think the players buy into it more, and it's so different and so unique. And when you hear the players talking so highly of it and so excitably about it, that kind of infiltrates out into the fans who get even more engrossed in it. And then we build big first tees like we did in Italy and in indeed France, and that again, it grows and it grows and it grows. So yeah, it's the ball is rolling on it, and it's getting bigger and bigger. There's no doubt about that.
And when you talk about the kind of the crowds and how people are sort of bought into it and how it kind of gets louder and louder, are there any kind of concerns from your end going to Bethpage about what what it might be like, the sort of hostility of the environment?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the biggest concern of it all is security and things getting out of hand. You know what the New York crowd is like. All our plan from day one on this Ryder Cup going into New York is built around a hostile atmosphere that it's going to be like no other. Of all, America is a very hostile place at the moment. It's very divided. It's very polarized. It's very patriotic. And we're going into that into the middle of that when you go to New York. There's no doubt the crowd are going to be fired up. They're very, very patriotic. I think Keegan is a very patriotic guy by nature. He's going to bring that to the table more than anything. The shouts of USA are going to have a little bit more oomph about them. There's a divided country in a lot of ways, America at the moment, but patriotism has come to the fore, and it's something that's talked about a lot politically. And it's something there's no doubt is going to spill over, and we have due concerns about it, and there are security protocols in place, and we're aware of that, but we know they're not going to be 100% bulletproof, and we got to work within those dynamics, and as a team and as a captain, Luke, he's got to work within those dynamics. That's what it's going to be. So all our plan is built around finding personnel and building a plan around performing in that atmosphere. It's very, 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 very difficult, but not impossible. And we're working towards it.
And to what extent then does that? I mean, you touched upon it, I think, Paul. But let's. This is a hypothetical, I suppose. But remembering what happened with Ludwig and being selected, and obviously we've come to realise now that he's an exceptional talent, but maybe someone like Nikolai Højgaard as well. Would it be a different set of criteria if we're going into August this year and we've got those guys who are playing well on the DP World Tour, really making a name for themselves, showing all the physical skills that might make them a candidate, but on the other hand, you might have Justin Rose ticking along quite nicely, and he's been there and he can handle that.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment, Ben. Absolutely. Of course, we're looking at that. I think the first throw of the dice we had was to put an ex-captain in place instead of putting a new captain in and having to learn the ropes as well, but dealing with the difficult task of playing away from home. We pushed hard to get Luke to go again and hit the ground running with a captain, so to speak, somebody who was respected by the players, who was a proven winner and has done a brilliant job like he did in Italy. And now we move on to the next thing. It's the evolution of our statistics. And Eduardo has tweaked his algorithm in terms of the internal order merit that we have, not just the one that's qualifying, but we have an internal one as well that's got an algorithm and weightings to it with certain skill sets that are required. And obviously experience is one of those higher weighted skill sets than there would be in a home match. Playing in a hostile atmosphere is another one. Who has performed in that kind of atmosphere is another weighted algorithm. So it kind of helps Luke and his backroom team and to kind of oversee everything with a view to, let's pick a team that's going to be suitable for this exam. This is a very different exam if we're playing at home. We will be approaching things. We will be different place on the road if we were playing at home than this one away. And then the fact that we're away and then away in New York, it's even more so. So we are looking at this away match very, very, very differently than any away match Europe has ever looked at it before. I think it's fair to say we've nailed a home template. I think it's fair to say America have nailed a home template. Both teams are struggling on the road, and we are rewriting the rule book internally on how we're going to approach these away matches, and hopefully I'm there as a help in doing that.
And I can ask with the algorithm. Obviously, you want to tell us too much about how the algorithm works, but I'm intrigued as to how important it is that the player plays regularly in America. Going to an away Ryder Cup in America. So someone like a Sepp Straka or an Aaron Rai, versus someone like a Laurie Cantor. Is that a big consideration?
Yeah, it is a big consideration, and somebody like Laurie is going to have to play well in the majors. There's no doubt about it. Winning in front of small crowds in Europe is not going to carry as big a weight as winning against huge and noisy crowds in America. I think that's fair to say that. But ultimately, look, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen at the end. It'll be Luke's decision with his vice captains on who the picks will be. It was a very, very tough decision to pick Ludwig. Adrian Moronk certainly would have made, unbelievable circumstances collided for Adrian to miss out in that occasion. As I say to Luke at the moment, you want that tough phone call. You want to encourage. You want to be in a situation when you've got to make those tough phone calls, because if you don't, you have 3 or 4 players that are off form, and you're finding a reason to pick them rather than finding a reason to pick somebody above somebody else. So you want to be in that position of making tough phone calls, as tough as it is.
We could talk Ryder Cup all day, couldn't we? I was just looking at the
Yeah.
calendar. It's March the 31st as we speak, and I'm already a bit giddy about it. So we'll go into this sort of nitty gritty of the world of men's professional golf, Paul. I mean, this again could probably be a topic we could spend hours on. But you were sort of uniquely positioned, I suppose, on the DP World Tour board. If you take us back to when Saudi Arabia, the Public Investment Fund, started showing an interest in golf, they came knocking. I mean, what was that like, and what were those first conversations? Because rock and hard place probably sums it up, I guess, but that's probably the negative way of putting it. You had 2 avenues you could go down, I guess, right? How did you come to assessing the avenues and choosing one?
Well, I mean, we had a situation where we were a little guy, European Tour. I'd been on the board. That was my 5th year on the board. It's kind of one of the things I wanted to do post my playing career was to help in that regard, and also learn about being on a board. I mean, it was a board with very, very strong protocols, with a very strong chairman, with an incredibly strong board, with some senior people from the business world on it. And I knew I was going to learn a huge amount from it, and I did. And certainly when it came to to a lot of these talks, and certainly when it came to any kind of financial considerations in terms of doing a deal. Obviously, the likes of Martin Gilbert from Aberdeen Asset Management was a huge voice when it came to the financials. But when it came to the decision, I think we were very unified. It wasn't like we had an unbelievable offer from the Saudis that was very similar to what America were doing. I mean, the Saudis were kind of on their own path. They wanted to create their own tour. They didn't really want to be in a partnership with European Tour. They were on their own path to creating Live. That was quite clear. We had very good relations with the Saudis. We never fell out with them. We met them on many occasions. We had tournament in Saudi for a couple of years before that. And we were trying to create a situation that was going to keep golf unified. But ultimately, they were on this path that they wanted to create Live, and that European Tour would be a sideshow to what Live was going to be, in their eyes. Whereas the PGA Tour were offering us a huge opportunity for our members to play on their tour, and also offering a huge financial underpin. And we went with security for the tour going forward. And it was like going with an established business with 50 years background in it, with the new kid on the block, and not really sure how long they're going to be buying into this golf or not. And when you're a board representing 500 players like we were, you have to be very cautious in that decision. And the senior business people on that board kept reminding all of us of this is not what you want to do individually. This is what is the safest thing for the members and for the European Tour, to make sure that we are going to continue for the next 50 years. And the PGA Tour offer was, for me, honestly, it was a brilliant piece of negotiation by Europe to get what we did from them, because we had a lot of cards stacked against us.
And would you say, Paul, obviously you can't speak for everyone, but you sometimes hear, whether players presented with the two options, and I'm guessing, ultimately you have to make a decision as a board in what's in their best interests. Do you sense from the DP World Tour membership a satisfaction with the way things have panned out with the strategic alliance, if I'm getting the correct terminology?
Probably not. And it really frustrates me that the players think that we were offered $1 billion by the Saudis, or even a financial deal anyway close to what America were got, because that's the rumors that were put out, which are absolutely not true. And it really frustrates me that the players think that, they could be making the money that the Live players are at if we'd have gone with the Saudis. That was not the case. That's not what Saudi came to the table for us. We didn't really have the option. We had an option to partner with them, but believe me, I mean, the Asian Tour partnered with them, and how's it doing for them? A couple of million euro tournaments and prize funds, whereas in the DP World Tour we're playing for increasing prize funds year on year, and underpin going forward. So it was the best option for the players, and time will prove that. I think the players are starting to realize it, and I think in 5 years' time they'll really realize, boy oh boy, that was a great decision by the board to go in the direction that we did. I still think there's unfinished business with the PGA Tour. They can do a whole lot more for Europe. They can empower us more, not just financially, but empower us with, trying to get the players to travel a bit more. We have a great tour. We put it on great in amazing venues. We've a very international makeup of players. We go to some of the most amazing cities, some of the best courses in the world. But what we need more than anything, we've got a really good business model and a great executive that work very hard, and we deliver big time. But what we need more than anything is empowerment from the PGA Tour, and that means getting the best players to get on the damn road and come over and play some of our events and do what Billy Horschel is doing. I mean, our tour would be so great if we could get, the Scotty Scheffler and Xander Schauffele's and the Morikawa's to travel, even just to travel as much as Billy does. I think we'd have a great chance to springboard ourselves forward and be even better than we are. But at the same time, we're very appreciative of the PGA Tour. We're very appreciative of the deal that we have. And without that deal, we'd be playing for, very, very small funds compared to what we are now. So the players will in time realize how great a deal that was, and how well negotiated it was. And it wasn't me that negotiated, or Thomas Bjorn or David Howell, the players on the board. It was a smart, clever billionaires who were on the board. They're the guys that took the lead in all of this, as well as obviously the chairman and the executive as well.
Do you see a few? I'm going to let Sam speak in a minute. Sorry, Sam. Do you
No.
see a future where we could have a co-sanctioned Irish Open? I'm sure that would be high on your list if we could. But you know, Rory's talked about it a little bit, and I think back to last September. I mean that run of tournaments from the Irish, Wentworth, and either side in Spain as well. There's just a really great run of top class tournaments that if they lacked anything, it was just that handful of top class golfers. I mean, they wouldn't have made for better finishes necessarily, but just that star power they draw. So can you see that at Royal, County Down, or wherever it may be, that we get those guys over and make that part of the calendar about travel and about genuinely growing the game in ways that a lot of people have promised to do and perhaps haven't managed to do yet?
Yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, that's the way it should be. But you've probably heard it, BBC say it before. I've been saying it now for 4 or 5 years since I've been on the board. When you have independent trader status in play, you've got no chance because the players are going to do what suits them. And the more money they make, which they're doing at the moment, the less they're going to play. I did a stat with Golf Channel there not so long ago. With top 10 players in the world 15 years ago were playing nearly 32 events a year. Now they're playing 21 and a half events a year. They're making so much money. They don't need to go on the road and play as much as they do. So while those dynamics are in play and the tour are not controlling players' schedules, they're not going to leave Dallas or wherever they live and say, you know what, once the FedEx is over, I've made a fortune this year. I've had a great season. I'm going to hang out here and play golf with my buddies and kind of glide through until maybe January, February next year. Unfortunately, that's the status, and I think that's outdated. I think I benefited from it myself as a player, independent trader status, but the dynamics have changed. And if we're going to compete against soccer and NFL and baseball, and we're going to play for the continued huge monies that for me are unsustainable, but if they're going to continue for doing that, they've got to give more. And I'm not saying that all of their schedule needs to be handed over to the tours, but the tours should have 2 or 3 tournaments every year that they can control on a player schedule. And it can be well away from major championships and to help, and if they did that, say, for example, they did that and they had 2 or 3 tournaments, imagine how much empowerment they could give to the DP World Tour by doing that and saying, okay, Xander, I want you to play the Irish next year. Scotty, I want you to go and play the Dunhill next year. Spread it around that way. And I think the game would be better for it. I think we'd raise more funds over here in terms of sponsorship. TV would be better, and it would be great to see the guys coming and playing over here. But as long as the ball's in their court and they make the decisions, it's not going to happen. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen. They're very American centric and very American in their mindset in terms of playing in America and not really want to be international.
Yeah, and that's what makes Billy Horschel so refreshing. I think that he does come over and make a concerted effort to play, several events. Wentworth obviously being the obvious one. So it would be nice to see more follow suit. But it's something needs to happen, doesn't it?
I think it's the one thing that Liv got right, Sam, more than anything else, is contracting the players. I really believe in that. I believe in contracting the players. And then you've got a product, you've got a proper business that you can go and sell. And going to a sponsor and saying, I can deliver you this player, this player, this player, this player, next year, this, and guarantee you what you're doing. Different conversation with a sponsor compared to going and saying, I need $6 or $8 million for you to sponsor an event in the DP World Tour. And I'm not really sure who's playing this year. I'll let you know 2 weeks before. I mean, that's a tough sell. That's a tough sell. And that's what golf is trying to sell against, and the Premier League doesn't have that problem. And other sports don't have that problem. Golf is the only one, particularly with the money the players are playing for at the moment, where, they're playing for huge prize funds and they don't have to give a huge amount in return.
Yeah. I wanted to move on to a slightly different topic, Paul, which is your vision for the reunification of golf came up a couple of weeks ago, didn't it? Which
yeah,
got people talking.
It did get people talking, and there was one thing that I, that I sort of took slight issue with, and I wondered if you could embellish, because it could have been sort of, maybe it was lost in the sort of the shortened version of it. But you mentioned you think that LIV players should get unrestricted access to the DP World Tour, and I don't. For me, it feels like that maybe isn't fair on people who are on the sort of the fringes of the tour, who are unable to get starts. So, obviously Hotel Planner Tour graduates, people who've earned their card through Q School.
Yeah.
What can you maybe embellish on that point?
Oh, I fully agree with you. Absolutely. I mean, this was a TV thing. I put down really broad parameters there to get people talking, and I didn't want to narrow it down to be exactly what it is. The whole point was to put lots of meat on the bone on both sides, so that if this was agreeable, that then you would trim it down to what it would be. So the obvious thing in that situation is a category. The leading 5 live players not already, or the leading 5 live players on the Euro Merit are exempt into a DP World event, or 10 players, whatever, something like that. So you'd have a category and limit it to a certain amount of players. That's easily done. But the main thing was to have the principles in place, and then you can trim the fat down. That's easy. Yeah, I kept it broad on purpose because I didn't want to look like I was favoring one side over the other, and I didn't want to put the number of 5 players or 10 players or 15.
Do you have a sort of general? I know that I don't want to be reductive, but do you have a general feeling on Liv in terms of where they are now versus where you might have expected them to be? Almost 3 years since Centurion now, and their sort of medium-term future, because we know us on the one hand we've got the almost unlimited wealth of the people behind them. On the other, however you want to spin it, the cut through has not been significant, whether you think it's been enough or whatever, however you choose to view it. But I don't know, it feels hard to see where they are in 3 to 5 years, especially with the contracts as they begin to expire. What happens when Brooks Koepka's contract is up? Can they keep giving these signing on? Why would John Rahm accept anything less than what he signed for the first time? So what do you think about where the future of that tour is in the sort of next 3 to 5 years?
It's kind of where I thought it would be, Ben. I never really thought it had legs on it to be cutting edge and new and amazing. I don't think it's an exciting way of playing golf. I don't think it certainly doesn't light my fire. And to go up against the history of the tours was always going to be a very, very difficult thing to do. So yeah, I'm not a fan of it. I never have been. I've always been aligned with the traditional tours. And yeah, I think by all accounts, it's very, very hard to show me a metric that says that it is successful. Whether that be commercially, whether that be TV viewing figures, whether it be, all my friends, I'm always doing market research myself. Do you ever watch Live? I mean, honestly, I can hardly count maybe on one hand in the last 3 years that people would say, yeah, I watch it all the time. Not even, I wouldn't even get to 5. So, and that's people in the golfing world. So I, I'm, I'm certainly, it's very unproven for me. And I know you have the attack dogs on social media will tell you otherwise, and they'll come up with all kinds of stuff. But there's no metric out there to say that it is really successful, that it's doing great, and it's about to pop. By all accounts, they've burned 5 billion, and that's from a very, very strong sources. Are they going to continue doing that? As I keep saying, Saudi Arabia is not a charity. They are not out there to give money away. They are out there to create businesses. I get that. But at what stage do you invest 500 billion into 5 billion into into a sporting franchise that don't have any metrics to say that it's going to be successful? I think what is going to be really interesting, and it could be the straw that breaks the camel's back, is what they think is the positive, which is a TV deal with Fox. Now they have a mainstream deal with Fox this year in America, and they're going up this week in Miami against a relatively small event on the PGA Tour. And that will be really insightful in terms of their figures compared to the PGA Tour, being on similar time zones, with a much better field than what the Texas Open will have. And, will they be able to produce figures anywhere near, on a major network, anywhere near what the PGA Tour will do? And if they do, well, then that would be a metric. I say, well, whoa, that's okay there. But I don't think that's going to happen. Certainly, the indications are that it's not going to happen, and they're quite a ways off. But they'll argue through till they're blue in the face that that's not the case. But
Well,
I just don't see it.
the problem we'll have, Paul, of course, is that when the figures come out, the TV viewing figures come out, and they're notably lower, then people are going to say everyone's watching on the app. That's where they watch it.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah, I know, but this is what I say. I mean,
mm,
if you follow the social media people, it's yeah, I mean, I try to get a really balanced view, and to be honest, I've tweaked a lot of my algorithms in my social media. I tweak it towards pro live because I really want to see their side. I want to hear it. I want to hear what their argument is because I know the PGA Tour, DP World Tour side. I know that myself inside out, but I really want to hear the other side. And when Scott O'Neill or anybody from the live side, gives an interview, I'm the first to read it. I want to hear it. I want to see it. Um, but what I'm hearing is a lot of PR and a lot of aspiration, but no metric that tells me that it's on the verge of absolutely growing huge. Um, and anyway,
yeah,
we'll see. I like evidence.
yeah. Well, that's a fair place to end with. We're
Mm.
gonna talk about the Masters a little bit, Paul, because it is just around the corner now. So we've got obviously last week both Scheffler and McIlroy playing pretty well. Obviously Rory's won very recently. Scotty hasn't. It feels from a Rory perspective like could this possibly be the year? Any thoughts?
Yeah, well, we've said that a lot, haven't we?
We have.
He's gone in on really good form the last couple of years. Certainly his practice rounds as well. He was absolutely flying and, flattered to deceive. So dealing with the pressure and the expectation is huge for him. Uh, I think the addition in the last few years of both Brad Faxon and Bob Rotella to his team has been huge. And I think both of them are kind of aligned with the way he plays the game. Uh, they're aligned to him as a person in what they teach. Um, and I think they will certainly give him the best chance he can of doing it. But the pressure that's on him now, A, having not won a major in 11 years, and B, trying to complete the Grand Slam is huge. And a part of me thinks that he probably has to win another major before he can go and complete the Grand Slam. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is going to be the year. And
Mm.
maybe it is. Not alone is Rory playing well this year with two big wins in huge events and also a win at the end of the year in Dubai and a lot of top tens like last week. But what's really buoyed about it too is the fact that a lot of the top players are not on form. Scotty's coming into form. I still think he's probably the guy to beat, but he's coming into form. But you can see he doesn't look as controlled and in control as he did last year. The body language is not the same. Xander is again coming into it, but again, he's off the pace. He's not really contended yet. Morikawa, yeah, he kind of looked like he was going to win, and then he got involved in that spot, which he should never have done. And he kind of taken away a bit of his concentration uh, and I'm looking, I'm saying, well, who else is really playing well? You can't really, John Ram hasn't won on live. Bryson hasn't won on live. And you're thinking, well, maybe he might slip in now with so many guys not showing a lot of form and him kind of going in with a bit of confidence. Maybe. So I don't know. It's just so hard to call, but I do think that he's he'll perform pretty well, and I really like the way his career is progressing, and I like the evolution of Rory the golfer, and I like to see him. If we had this conversation 2 3 years ago, or even 18 months ago, we'd have said, Rory has to be in his A game to win. He can't win with his B game, and now we're seeing not long can he win his B game, he can win with his B minus game,
Mm.
and that hasn't always been the case. His chipping and his putting, for me, are better than ever. They look instinctive. They're aligned with how he hits great golf shots. Um, and he's got the validation of winning. I think the win in Dubai at the end of last year was really important psychologically, having slipped a few, not just at the US Open last year, but then through the end of the year on the DP World Tour, having slipped through some of, not winning the Irish and then beating in a playoff in Wentworth. It was really important for him to try to get a win by the end of the year and to win it as impressively as he did in Dubai on a tough finishing stretch there, 16, 17, 18. I think that kind of buoyed him into coming out this year. So yeah, I think he'll be well prepared. I think Rotell's in his ear now, and I think that's really important. You talk about evidence. There's a proven track record. The amount of major championships that he's got guys over the line with. I'm a huge Rotella fan. I think he's fantastic, and I think he's great for Rory. And so fingers crossed. Maybe the stars are aligning.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm just hoping he gets. I want him to get an early tea time on Thursday. Because they put some of the big names in the very last group, and I think in my head somehow that just makes it even harder. Just get out there on Thursday, get off to a decent start. Because the thing for me
Yeah,
with Rory is we're yet to actually see him go to the back nine at Augusta with a chance. Like it had gone in 2011, hadn't it? And it really had gone against Patrick Reed. And I just want to see him go around Amen Corner in the mix. I know we all do. But
yeah.
anyway, the Masters is they're waiting for him, hopefully, to do it. We've not got long, Paul, before we put you through highest bidder, I'm afraid. So we'll see how that goes. But just to go away from the Masters and the more serious talk, I mean, the broadcasting side, you've made a name for yourself in broadcasting, really sort of post Ryder Cup captaincy. I mainly want to know what it's like working with Brandel, to be honest with you. But in a bigger picture, how much have you enjoyed it? I mean, you've worked both sides of the pond, in the booth, in the studio. You've had to learn all that, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. You get thrown into the deep end and you learn. And I was lucky to have, experienced players like people like you and Murray in particular around me, who's always a real good voice of reason. And yeah, you go into the NBC and it's different. It's 100 mile an hour. It goes much quicker. The pitches change so quick. You always have to follow the pitches, so you don't have real time. I'm not. My skill set is not inspiration coming to me straight away and getting it out straight away within 5 seconds. I like to have time to think and kind of dilute my ideas and think them through and then eloquate them. And that's why probably the show that I do with Brandel suits me more than the commentary. It's very hard to get inspiration comment out quickly because the picture changes and the rule is you have to change with the picture. But I really enjoy it. It's a great team. We have a wonderful team in Sky. We have a great vibe. Everybody works so hard in there. I can honestly tell you the amount of prep that goes into every show is huge from everybody. Nobody is slacker in that regard. And same in NBC. To answer your question on Brandel, I love working with him. Just like I loved working with Monty when he was with Sky. I like working with controversial people who shoot from the hip. I like that as an ally. I see that as something you can work off, you can either work towards, or you can work away from and create debate. And I think Brandel does that. I really enjoy it. I don't know where he's going to go. I have a good idea now because I know him so well. I mean, if it's Liv or Saudis, I kind of know where he's going to go. Excuse me, but he's fun. He's absolutely smashing guy, and anybody spending time in a company can't other than be enthralled with him because he's a great listener. He wants to hear your opinion. He wants to hear your side of it. When you go out with him socially, he's exactly the same. He wants to hear your side of it. Now he'll come out and he might disagree with you, and he'll agree quite strongly with it. I don't agree with that, and this is why. Bum, bum, bum. But that's okay. For me, I'm okay with that. I'm okay. It's okay to disagree and have a different view on it. Um, He's very interested in Europe. For a guy who is as well read as him, it's amazing how little they know about the European Tour, and how little they know about golf outside of America, and how they think the Zozo Championship is an international event with a quality field, and they think that is, international golf. Uh, Even though it's a bunch of players jumping on the plane, they don't know where they're going, and all of a sudden they arrive in Japan. They're in a sterile environment. They go and play. They go back and they go back to America, and it's not embracing the culture. It's not kind of bringing the game to the Japanese, or coming over to Europe and going to France and getting into the fabric of the culture of Paris or whatever the tournament may be. It's funny how Americans see things through the prism of PGA Tour and the PGA Tour events. So yeah, I enjoy it. I enjoy it. It has its challenges. It always does. But that's okay. I'm still learning on it. It's not something that comes easy to me. I can tell you that. Captaincy was a lot easier.
So one final question, Paul, before we do highest bidder, on a quite a different topic, and it came in from one of our listeners actually, but I'm intrigued about it too. Do you think there should be a fifth men's major, and if so, where and when should it be held?
Yeah, I think like I said in that proposal we talked about earlier, if we're going to bring Live and the PGA Tour and DP World Tour together, I don't think we need to have 25 events that all the top players play in. I would like to see another 4 or 5 events on top of the 4 majors where the players come together. What do you call them, major championships, or what do you call them, signature events that have got entry points for Live players, for DP World players, for Australian players, for Japanese players, as well as PGA Tour players? Great. But the whole idea of the world events. I wish they were brought back and empowered and made into proper international events again that went on the road a bit more. Um, that's what I'd like to see. So I think it's probably going to happen that the players will be, particularly if the sport remains divided the way it is, they're going to have to find a way of bringing the players together in more events.
Mm.
And the TPC is the obvious place that will happen. So I think the more chance the game is divided or stays divided, the more chance that it probably will become a 5th major and be another opportunity to have the top players all playing together.
Good answer, Paul. I like it. We're going to finish off with highest bidder. So
Only you don't have to bid, do you? We had this with Laurie. Like, you just have to name as many as you can.
oh no, we did bid in the end. Do you
Oh,
remember
did we?
Laurie? So
I'm glad
Laurie
you-
said, yeah. So Laurie said 4, and he only got 3, which meant he doesn't get his imaginary 5 points. So you do have to
Okay.
commit. You got to commit to something. And your question, you have to bid on this, Paul. So your question is, your best major finish was a T6 at the 2004 PGA Championship. I'm sure you remember it well. 21 years
Right.
ago now. How
Right.
many of the final top 10 on that leaderboard can you name?
Oh boy.
So first, firstly say how many you think you can name, and then we'll see whether you can hit your total.
Oh boy. Oh God.
You're allowed to bid 2 and
I'm
just
gonna
say
s-
yourself and the winner.
I'm going to say 4.
4.
Is that 4 including yourself?
Uh, I'm going to say 4, including myself.
Okay.
Right, let's go. Let's go. I couldn't have named
BJ
4, by the way.
so
But there we are.
so BJ,
That's correct.
Krista Marco,
Correct.
Yep.
did Jeff Ramsey make top 10?
No, he did not.
We
Just
do
outside.
we get one mulligan, Paul. So
You
you're
do
allowed
get one
more
mulligan,
guess
yeah, so
before we
that's-
mark you
yeah.
down as a fail, I'm afraid.
Oh boy.
I'd give you a clue, Paul, by saying you've named 2 of the playoff. 2 of the people that are in the playoff. There was one more person in the playoff.
Yeah, there was. Justin Leonard.
There we
Yes.
No?
There we go.
Yeah, Justin Leonard. Yeah, I played really well that week. It was a golf course that suited me, and I was on the march to make that Ryder Cup team in 2004. And I was going head to head with Jeff. How I remember Jeff Remesey. I was going head to head with him to get that last spot. I was miles off with about 3 months to go, maybe not even, no, kind of 6 weeks to go. And then I found a bit of form, and I just kept playing week after week after week, and I was doing well. I was gaining ground. I was gaining ground. I was gaining ground. And me and Jeff were playing together on the last day, and it came down to the 16th hole. We were pretty tied going at it. He was a really good competitor, Remesey, and I made a birdie there, and I think he might have made a 6, gave me a 2-shot lead, and kind of got me where I needed to go. And then I parred a difficult 18th, but I played a long way ahead of where the leaders did. And looking back, and I was only 2 shots off the playoff, maybe was I? 2 shots off the playoff. And
Possibly.
look
I
back
haven't got the leaderboard in front of me, but yeah, I mean,
yeah. And I think, oh my God, how close could I have got 2 shots? Absolutely. I think I had a soft third round, didn't play great in the third round. But it was firm, it was fast, it was windy. It was the kind of golf courses that suited me.
yeah.
Whistling Straits. Yeah. You say 6 got in my head. I thought I was 4th. There you go.
Yeah.
I was 6th.
I mean, it would be the
Yeah.
first time I've got my facts wrong, but I mean, I think it's right. But anyway, well done for getting your 5 points. I mean,
Well, I got 3 guys in the playoff.
yeah. Yeah,
Go on. Can you call me out who was top 10 else? Who else? Go ahead.
yeah. So we had Vijay Singh, Chris DeMarco, Justin Leonard were the top three, and then it was Riley, Ernie
Chris
Els,
Riley.
then KJ Choi, Phil Mickelson, Ben Crane, Robert Allenby, Adam Scott, and Stephen Ames. So there's a couple of ties in there. But,
Plenty of straight hitters in that
I
mix.
had nothing left in me after the top three I gave you. So
well,
yeah.
we are very much running out of time. But Paul, it's been a delight having you on. Thank you so much for joining us. It's hugely appreciated for our young podcast.
You're welcome, guys. Good luck with all your podcasts, and I know you're really well informed, both you and all you do. So good luck with it. It's certainly one of the podcasts I listen. I listen to a lot of podcasts because I drive a lot. So you're one of the ones on my list, and it's always good to hear. As I say, it's okay to have different opinions, and I'm always interested if there's a difference of opinion or a different view on it, and I think it's good to kind of expand the thinking more than anything else. So good luck with all, and hopefully this game is going to get United somehow. It doesn't look like it, but somehow, hopefully, something come together. Even if it's only 5 or 6 more events where they come together, hopefully that's going to happen.
We'll see. Well, it keeps us, giving us something to talk about every week. So, but
yeah.
No, thanks so much, Paul. And
all right, guys.
For all our listeners, please come back next week and we'll chat more.